What does Professor Lancaster think? Race in America.
America didn't stumble into racism like it was a crack in the sidewalk. No, it engineered it, brick by brick, law by law, whip crack by whip crack. You can't talk about liberty here without gagging on the fumes of hypocrisy that have been leaking since 1619, when a boatload of terrified Africans was dumped into Virginia like human cargo on clearance. This wasn't a historical oopsie. This was a deliberate pivot toward profit with human flesh as the foundation. The Enlightenment might have been blooming across the Atlantic, but in the colonies, enlightenment was counted in bushels of tobacco and bodies in chains. Before you start humming Land of the Free, remember, freedom had a color code. Spoiler alert, black didn't make the list. The shift from indentured servitude to race-based chattel slavery wasn't some natural evolution. It was a hostile takeover of the human soul. Why rent a life when you can own it? The plantation class did the math, and black bodies became generational assets. America found its cash cow. Then came the Virginia Slave Codes of 1705. Less legal code, more instruction manual for turning people into property. And don't get me started on Jefferson, that walking contradiction wrapped in Enlightenment prose. Wrote about equality while cashing checks off bondage. The dude was tweeting about liberty with one hand and running a slave-powered startup with the other. Let's talk Puritans, God's chosen hall monitors. They brought Bibles, guilt, and a work ethic sharp enough to grind the soul out of a man. Mix that with capitalism and some Calvinist spice, and suddenly black folks weren't just enslaved, they were sinners by default, born lazy, born criminal, born wrong. This wasn't cultural poison, it was moral arson. The whole deserving poor and hardworking whites routine, a con job, a grift, wrapped in scripture, sold with economic incentives. What better way to justify theft than pretending God handed you the deed? And if you're not furious yet, check your pulse. Any system built on coercion, categorization, and generational domination isn't liberty. It's a boot on the neck, shrink-wrapped in a flag. But here's the truth they didn't put in the textbooks. The enslaved weren't passive extras in a sad national tragedy. They were fighters. They ran, rebelled, strategized, preached, and bled. Harriet Tubman didn't lead people to freedom. She operated a one-woman spec ops unit behind enemy lines. Frederick Douglass wasn't asking politely. He was carving slaveholders open with words so precise they could double as surgical instruments. These weren't cries for pity. They were battle hymns, declarations of earned liberty, not borrowed crumbs. Every whip-scarred back, every runaway's muddy footprint, that was the real America. Not the statues, not the powdered wigs. That. Then came emancipation. Slavery was legally dead, allegedly, but white supremacy just mutated. Faster, sleeker, better branding. Cue Jim Crow, dressed like Law and Order, acting like a lynch mob, separate but equal, was a punchline with no joke. Plessy versus Ferguson of 1896 legalized apartheid with a wink and a gavel. You wanted liberty? Pass a Kafkaesque literacy test and get past a man with a shotgun. The civil rights movement was not charity. It was the next phase of insurrection. Rosa sat, Malcolm roared, Martin dreamed, and bled. And still, the lash echoes through red-lined neighborhoods, over-policed streets, and schools so unequal they make your teeth itch. Now we're in 2025, and guess what? The ghost of slavery is still rattling chains in America's attic. Housing policy, healthcare disparities, courtroom bias. It never left. It just changed its LinkedIn title. George Floyd's murder wasn't a wake-up call. It was the alarm blaring for the 10th time. Protesters weren't looters. They were oracles, pointing at the cracks in the foundation we keep slapping duct tape over. If you're a historian, a rational mind who believes in dignity over doctrine, then you've got to call this what it is. Institutionalized theft of agency. And this isn't just America's mess. Colonial Europe took notes. Apartheid in South Africa, Jim Crow's evil twin, racial caste systems in Latin America, same software, different accent. Racism, once industrialized in the US, became a global franchise of exploitation. But here's the rub. Every state-sponsored division is an assault on the individual. If the individual is sacred, then racism is heresy, period. So what do? We study it. Not to wallow in guilt or rack up grievance points, but to understand the machine. Why it was built, how it runs, and how to rip the gears out. Because history isn't dead data, it's a field guide to power. Studying slavery, that's blueprint analysis. Studying resistance, that's learning how to jam the lock. Slavery and racism weren't bugs, they were features, hard-coded. But code can be rewritten. That's the challenge, that's the hope. Because if liberty means anything, it means everyone gets a shot, no chains, no codes, no damn compromises. So light your cigars, open your books, flip the damn table. We've got work to do.
You've been listening to a portion of the RPTM Podcast. We hope we made you laugh, but more importantly, we hope we made you cry. If you found this episode engaging, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our upcoming thought-provoking discussions.